Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. It's that time again for a no-nonsense news update from your boy about what's happened with COD Zombies in the last few days. We've got loads to cover today, including Treyarch backtracking on their original decision on the launch of Firebase Z, a massive leak involving the Ural Mountains map that's probably going to be coming to Cold War Zombies in the future, and plenty more, so drop a like real quick and we can jump straight into it. Now that Firebase Z has been out for a few days, the community has turned its attention to basically trying to break the map, whether it's solving Easter eggs or speedrunning or just doing some glitches. Now on day one, I showed you guys this incredible jump spot that you can use to get out of the spawn, but what's concerning to me is that Treyarch on day one added a patch in to actually prevent the player from bypassing that first buy door in the village to get out of spawn, and made out like they were intending to get rid of this parkour jump as well, so there would be no way to bypass it and you would have to buy that first door if you did want to leave. Now, I personally am massively against this change. I feel like having that jump in there adds to the complexity of the map in a really satisfying way and kind of brings the skill ceiling up, but in a way that just doesn't affect other players. Like, it's not like this is going to mean that noobs suddenly don't have access to the rest of the map or something. This is so innocent and yet so good to be able to do to style on your friends or to use in a legitimate strategy to try and do the Easter egg at a low round or do a speed run. I really think Treyarch need to consider leaving this in, even if it affects zombie pathing when you're on the roof, for example, with that first door unbought. It would be so much better if they could just fix the pathing as opposed to fixing the jump, in my opinion. Maybe it's not that easy, but that's what I like to see. And if you agree, then let Treyarch hear your voices in the comments down below. Speaking of things not being that easy, the main quest Easter egg was solved pretty easily, but there was one step that wasn't that easy, and it was the mimic step, where we had to figure out that canister, right? It turns out that the missing dark ether artifact intel that everyone's been searching for the last few days was actually just one of those canisters. It was actually bugged, so even those that did do the full Easter egg didn't get it, and it's really unfortunate because I think everyone thought it was a side quest, which could have been really cool, but it's been confirmed to be a bug, and Treyarch have now fixed it, so you guys can get your 100% completionist intel if you want. Treyarch have also fixed something that the community was up in arms about on day one, and it felt like it just didn't make any sense at all, but thankfully they've seen the light. In Treyarch's mind, there was a difference between special enemies and elite enemies. So an elite would be a megaton from D Machine, for example, whereas mimics and manglers were just special enemies. They didn't fit into the elite class. It was this distinction that meant that your camo challenges could not be progressed on Firebase Z if you needed elite elims, because there weren't any elites on the map at all. Like, you had to go and play D Machine if you wanted to get progress. Foxhound from Treyarch confirmed that this was intentional. This is how they felt like it needed to be because of that distinction, but thankfully, and probably mostly in part to you guys letting Treyarch hear your voices and letting them know, they've decided to go back on what they originally said, and you now can get progress from those special infected as well. And a nice cherry on top as well is that if you kill an order, it counts as 3 elite kills. Now, this probably won't change anyone's life because I think getting those elite kills was probably one of the least challenging parts of all of those camo challenges, but just the flexibility of not having to do it on one singular map is awesome. I'm also really glad that Treyarch have changed the Reiki so that it takes less ammo in order to blow up that Beyblade in the middle and create a shockwave. It definitely felt like it was a bit too high on launch in my opinion, and so this is a great change, especially if you've been trying that high round strategy in the weapon lab. It's a really, really cool strat. I recommend you check it out. I've already made a video on it, and the reduced number of shots that you need in order to actually create your explosion makes it all the easier. Now for some news that you may not have expected. One of my Easter egg guides contains nonsense. I know we're gonna have to keep it a secret. It's gonna be between us, okay? My reputation's on the line here, guys. You gotta keep this one under wraps. But yeah, in the video I made about the bunny Easter egg that got solved, I said that you had to shoot the China thing, and that's because that's what I did in my game and it worked, but then you only actually have to look at the bunny, all right? So PSA, if you're doing that Easter egg, just aim down sight at the bunny. Stare into the bunny's eyes. That's all you gotta do. And then the bunny will jump scare you and you'll get transported to the Dark Ether, and then you'll potentially get a Reiki and you'll get your Juggernog for free from the crate. But that's not the interesting bit. The interesting bit is that I was wrong. I'm sorry. And really, I just wanted to let you guys know what you actually had to do so that you were aware for the future. So also, actually, speaking of side quests, we've got the bunny Easter egg solved. We've solved Sergi's head. You find it around the map, bring it to the field hospital, and then bring a memory transference device in there. And that'll allow you to get a code for the safe, which gives you a perk and a cipher. And we've also got the free jump pad Easter egg where you play Dance Dance Revolution, and the monkey bomb upgrade, and one or two other smaller bits and pieces as well. Now, what I'm wondering is, are there going to be that many more side quests? It's weird because it feels like we've actually gone through nearly all the kind of leads that we had on the map, and I've kind of run out of things that I want to try and explore and figure out in my game. I mean, I did a stream the other day, and we were searching for like 3 hours for things related to the jump pad and just all sorts of different side quests, and it didn't really feel like there were that many loose ends. So what's going to be interesting to see is in the next few weeks if people completely stop playing Firebase Z for hunting purposes and entirely transition to high rounds, or if there's something maybe buried in there that might be under the surface that we're going to discover and then be able to explore further, because the giant monster in D Machine kept people's interests up for a little while, but beyond that, I think interest fell off pretty fast, and I'm kind of concerned that the same might happen to Firebase Z unless we stumble on something cool pretty soon. One thing that does have me pretty interested right now is the storyline, and some Easter egg side quest ciphers have been recently solved, one by Rich Killer and Coldstone, that give us an idea of where the story might be heading. In the cipher, Carver mentions to Weaver that he doesn't know who he can trust, and he doesn't even know the name of the director that oversaw the creation of and currently oversees the activities of Requiem. It all seems a bit mysterious to him, and he even overhears the director speaking Russian at one point. So, is there a chance that the leader of Requiem is actually a mole of some kind and he's working for Omega in some capacity? It's not the first that we've heard of there being a spy within Requiem, because there's other intel on the map that suggests that this is the case as well from Omega's point of view. They say that Requiem have no idea what's going on. And so we might see a big betrayal happening in the next DLC and potentially lose Samantha once again to the fact that we're going to rely on our teammates to bring her in, and then one of them is going to go rogue on us. It's a nice segue actually to talking about this Ural Mountains leak that I mentioned at the start of the video. Now, I want to be very, very clear here. This has to be taken with a grain of salt, and I'll explain exactly why in a minute. First, I just want to give you guys the information. So, the leak's coming to us via Nade Leaks Shiz. It actually came out before Firebase Z even had a trailer, so this is before we knew the map was split in two, before we knew that the portal was going to connect those two areas, before we knew that Ravenov was going to talk about the Ural Mountains in the end cutscene, before all of that. And this is what it says. The map will be set on the base of a huge snowy mountain, and it will be connecting different areas. So there'll be a Russian facility area, and then there'll be a load of like frozen caverns and things like that, full of weird ruins and artifacts. The leaker suggests that the map is going to have a kind of verticality to it, almost like Die Rise. And so you're going to be able to travel via portals just like we did in Firebase Z in order to get around faster. It's still in early development, so some of this may be subject to change, but that's apparently where things were at the time of posting. And so, well, does this line up with where we're going to be going in the story? Sure, absolutely. We will be going to the mountains at some point, I expect. I think that the probability that that happens is probably over 90%. And in terms of gameplay, I think it kind of makes sense too, because in D Machine, they introduced the portals to us to get to the Dark Ether, and that was all well and good, and it was a novel experience. And then in Firebase Z, we use portals to travel around, and there's a side quest to go into the Dark Ether. And so in this map, to basically expand on the idea and make it so that those portals not only transport you to different areas, but also potentially have some kind of portal-y element to them, like actual portal, in order to integrate that kind of verticality as a feature, is definitely the sort of thing that I could see Treyarch wanting to play with. They're always looking for their maps to have a different DNA to them, a different core feel, and that would certainly make a map feel really unique. Now, the question is, can we believe a word this person is saying? I think, to be honest, it's a tough one, because some of the stuff that they said did come true, and it was really accurate. The fact that Firebase Z was split between those two separate areas, connected by a portal in the middle, and with one of them being an abandoned village and the other being an outpost. It's literally called Outpost 25. It also contains info about a map in Germany, and we've already known that there was likely going to be a map in Germany because a lot of people have been talking about a Kino remake. And so granted, they could just be basing their information on that and essentially just telling porcupines in order to try and drum up interest in their post, I suppose. But if that comes true, if that map does indeed feature chunks of Kino and Verrückt, for example, like they suggested that it might, then we should really be looking towards this Ural Mountains info as much more credible. There are issues in their post, though. They said that there was going to be muddy water in Firebase Z, and there isn't. They said there were going to be swimming zombies, and there are not. So they clearly got some things wrong, and I don't think we can entirely discredit them based on that, because game dev is fluid. It changes, and sometimes there'll be a feature in there that is then removed the next week and put back in the week after that. It's a fluid thing. But when the map was already that close to coming out, you'd expect them to have had more updated information, more likely at least. And if not, then their source was probably someone that was talking to them a little while ago about old things in dev, and that would mean that their information about much further away maps like the Ural Mountains would probably be even more distorted, and therefore we should pay it less attention. So hopefully you guys feel that that's a fair representation of kind of the balance of this. this, where the information is there and they did get some things right, but they did also get other things wrong, and so we can't just take it as entirely gospel. I have seen people saying, well, what if this is just a dev that wanted to troll the community, and so they put one correct thing in there and everything else is wrong? And I think that is a pretty funny idea, but time will tell. We will see whether this person was telling the truth or lying as the days, weeks, and months pass. It would be a shame during that time if you weren't subscribed, so I recommend you do that if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time for the next news update, no nonsense of course involved, and for any other zombies videos that come across my desk in the meantime. Thanks guys, bye for now.